Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. Today, let's talk about Taiwan's support in Ukraine's defense and protecting democracy, not in Asia-Pacific only. It has been more than a month since Russia attacked Ukraine, and Ukrainians didn't give up and didn't fall into defeatism as Putin expected. At the same time, we can also notice absolutely different reactions to Russia's aggression and war crimes that Russia is committing in CCP-run China and a democratic country of Taiwan. As soon as the war broke out, Taiwan's government strongly condemned Russia's actions and joined its allies in imposing sanctions on Russia. Taiwanese people also donated money to support Ukraine via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They provided material relief to Ukraine, and a large number of volunteers have joined Ukrainians in the field of information warfare, fighting Chinese and Russian misinformation. On the other hand, let's see how China reacted to Russia's aggression. They simply pretended as if nothing happened. And when Russia's state media outlets have been sanctioned abroad, Chinese media started spreading Russian propaganda instead. They used all the outlets that target both Chinese and international audiences at their hands to help Russia. And those little pinks, China's internet troll army, started humiliating and cursing Ukraine online in China.
穷逼国家，这还他妈跟俄罗斯打仗，哎呀，真是我懒得吐槽这个国家了。
And spreading pro-Russian propaganda abroad. Although information warfare has not yet been defined as a form of direct confrontation, it should be clear whose side did the CCP take in this war. And looking at Taiwan's actions, how the global society sees this democratic country, I don't think that anything should be explained additionally. They're very different from the totalitarian hell on earth the CCP land is. The attitudes of the two countries towards Russia are very different, and how Taiwan and China reacted to Russia's invasion of Ukraine will only make the international society, especially the European countries, understand that Taiwan and China are truly two different countries having nothing in common. Perhaps some of the European countries are still restrained by their relationships with the CCP and the interests they have in China. But we also have to admit the truth. No matter how the democratic countries try to have closer relationships with communist China, the CCP will still stay by other dictatorships like Russia in the end. The enemy of a dictatorship is democracy. Democracy for them is like a bone in their throat. It's been a long time since the Taiwanese people have understood it. If you ask anyone who considers himself or herself Taiwanese, they'll tell you why they're willing to stand with Ukraine. Every Taiwanese person will tell you Taiwan knows the pain of being bullied by a neighboring autocratic country very well. And also the anger and frustration when you're being pushed out of international organizations. How dictatorships like the CCP make your voice suppressed. Every Taiwanese person knows it. Moreover, Taiwan's support for Ukraine is not only a projection of empathy. It is also a demonstration of how Taiwanese people pursued their democracy and freedom for more than 100 years, and how that love and thirst for freedom has been passed down from generation to generation. At the same time, Taiwanese also know very well, if something bad happens in Europe, it will also have an impact on Taiwan. The regional security in Europe also has an impact on the safety of the Taiwan Strait. And it is likely that most people in Europe have only recently begun to understand that Taiwan is also crucial to the security of Europe and all the democratic world. If we look at the global strategic balances of forces, Taiwan has been protecting democracy not only in East Asia. Taiwan has also been helping in promoting democracy all around the world. When we look at Taiwan, it's not only the first island chain that doesn't let the inhumane dictatorship spread further. Taiwan's role is important in many places around the world. Taiwan no longer wants to be a country that is acting too softly and cautiously while protecting its safety. Taiwanese people are enthusiastic, they're willing to help, they're capable of helping, and they are helping. Taiwan is a perfect example of what a nation democracy can be. This is different from the Chinese Communist Party's distorted view of diplomacy and how they're coercing the world by their United Front strategy. Taiwan is a country that is loyal to its allies and that respects the sovereignty of its allies. Therefore, the unwavering support Taiwan is giving Ukraine, a country that has been acting as a shield for the whole Europe, also shows Taiwan's determination as a country that's located in the first island chain, and also is acting as a shield not letting dictatorships to spread further. What's also important, any small victory achieved by Russia will also encourage the CCP to invade Taiwan. At the same time, what Ukraine has been through is also a lesson to the whole world. Defeatism and surrendering to dictatorships won't lead to any good future. Winston Churchill said once, "We seem to be very near the bleak choice between war and shame. My feeling is that we shall choose shame and then have war thrown in a little later on even more adverse terms than at present." The reason why Ukraine has become a model for for resisting aggression coming from totalitarian states is that Ukraine didn't surrender or yield in the face of invaders, even when they had military or economic advantages. I think that Taiwan is also such a country. For decades, when the whole world has been appeasing China, when the world didn't want to condemn China for Tiananmen massacre, when the world turned a blind eye on ethnic cleansing and brutal suppression of Tibetans and Uyghurs, Taiwan has been a primary target for CCP's aggression against the neighboring countries. But the Taiwanese people are bravely guarding their sovereignty and do everything possible not to be swallowed by China. Even when the CCP is trying to isolate Taiwan internationally, even when the CCP is forcing countries to cut diplomatic ties with Taiwan, even when democratic countries betray Taiwan and abide to China's One China principle, which has no legal background, even when Taiwan is being a target of information warfare and cyber attacks, while social media companies are being bought by the CCP's regime, which leads to them oppressing the rights of the Taiwanese people to freely speak their minds, even when Taiwanese society is becoming split because of the pressure from outside, because of bullying from China, most of the Taiwanese don't give up, and they won't bow their heads to the totalitarian CCP's regime. The international community should wake up, regain the courage to support allies and re-embrace the power of democracy. At the same time, it's time to get to know the invader and what are the weak spots and contradictory points of the dictatorships. In the past, Russia's atrocities in Syria were simply ignored. Russia didn't have any consequences for attacking Georgia also. In 2014, when Russia occupied Crimea, they only received some sanctions for that. The tragedy currently happening in Ukraine is the result of the whole world allowing Russia to behave like that. Russia is sending international mercenary groups to protect dictatorships that have good relationships with them, and the CCP is using its Belt and Road initiative to corrupt small countries where democracy is already in danger. They want to have total control over those countries. China and Russia are increasing their influence by supporting dictatorships in Africa, Middle East and South America. Let's also not forget about the militarization of islands and reefs in the South China Sea, where China is constantly threatening the neighboring countries. In the past, the democratic countries chose shame over war and did nothing to prevent Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Pacifism of the European countries led to us not strengthening our self-defense, and the distorted environmental and green energy policies only made some of the Western European countries dependent on energy sources from totalitarian Russia.
How dare you!
To say it even more directly, it made us bow to dictatorships.
How dare you!
Democratic countries should not lower our standards and give up on our values. Nowadays, the democratic countries are uniting. We can see organizations like Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, IPAC, forming and already working to reform how democratic countries approach China. IPAC members are well aware of the extent to which the Chinese government can abuse power and bully its neighbors, starting with what Hong Kong experienced and how China is reacting to Russia's aggression in Ukraine. We can see that those totalitarian countries are always serious about what they're doing. If they say they'll attack, they'll usually do it. Lord Dalton said that the West has to face an increasingly urgent choice. It's either being with dictatorships or with democracies. He also said that we must stand with Taiwan against the march of authoritarianism. And he also urged the government to lead other democracies in recognizing Taiwan. Taiwan has the right to decide their future, and it should be on an equal footing with other countries. However, I still think that in the face of Russian and Chinese expansionism, the democratic countries are still too passive, and sometimes even appeasing those totalitarian regimes.
How dare you!
We have to become more active in protecting our values. And now Ukraine is on the front line of the fight for freedom. And what we have to do now is to call on the allies to stand up against dictatorships. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye bye.